There comes a moment in every person's life when the soul quietly whispers, "You were meant for more." A moment when the ache of mediocrity becomes unbearable, and the fire inside refuses to stay quiet any longer. This is not a coincidence. It is your higher self knocking, begging you to awaken, to rise, to remember the power you were born with. You are not here to merely survive. You are here to thrive, to conquer, to shine so brightly that even your fears begin to retreat in awe. Look closely at your life. Every repeated failure, every invisible wall, every inner voice that says you can't, none of that is you. That is programming. That is a script written by fear, by others' opinions, by the wounds of your past. And what has been programmed can be reprogrammed, can be reprogrammed. Your mind is not a prison. It is a tool, a garden, a sacred instrument that, when tuned to success, makes achievement not just possible, but inevitable. What you hold in your heart, what you affirm in your mind, what you emotionally charge with belief, that becomes your reality. This is not hope. This is law. If you want new results, you need new thinking. Not just surface-level thoughts, but deeply embedded beliefs that run on autopilot and pull success to you like gravity pulls the stars into formation. Now is the time to break the old code. Now is the time to plant new beliefs, ones rooted in power, purpose, prosperity. You don't need to force success. You need to become the kind of person to whom success naturally flows. The world may tell you it's hard, but your reprogrammed mind will whisper, already yours. Let today be the turning point. Let today be the moment you reclaim the remote control of your mind and rewrite the script of your destiny. The tools are within you. The power is already yours. All that's left is to flip the switch. Your dominant thoughts shape your reality. What you repeat, you become. Success begins with inner belief, not outer effort. Identity drives behavior. Eliminate mental clutter and replace fear with faith-based affirmation. Daily repetition of empowered thoughts creates new neural pathways for achievement. Train your subconscious to expect abundance, and life will mirror that expectation. Every thought you think carries energy, and every thought repeated becomes a pattern that silently shapes the life you're living. You might not notice it in a single moment, but over time these thoughts become beliefs, and those beliefs start to drive your decisions, your behaviors, and ultimately your destiny. Most people don't even realize that they're living on autopilot, guided by mental habits they never consciously chose. They wonder why success feels just out of reach, why happiness slips through their fingers, why fear always finds a way to whisper in their ear. The truth is simple but powerful. Your dominant thoughts shape your reality. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, your mind will find evidence to prove you right. If you silently expect failure, the world will conspire to give it to you. But if you shift that narrative even slightly, your life begins to tilt toward a different path. The mind is not just a passive observer of reality. It's the master architect, constantly building the blueprint of your future. With every single thought it allows, every thought has a frequency, a vibration that influences your emotions and your energy. If your thoughts are dominated by lack, fear, doubt, and limitation, your inner world becomes a prison. You stop seeing possibilities. You stop taking bold action, and you settle into a smaller version of yourself. But the moment you start repeating thoughts of courage, worthiness, and abundance, something incredible starts to happen. You begin to notice opportunities where before there were only obstacles. You start attracting people, ideas, and situations that align with the vibration of your new thinking. The shift may not be visible overnight, but internally, a deep transformation begins. You start becoming the person who expects success, who moves with purpose, who refuses to be controlled by old programming. Your mind is like fertile soil. It does not care what you plant. It simply grows whatever seed you give it. If you continue planting seeds of worry and self-doubt, don't be surprised when your life reflects that emotional landscape. But if you start planting seeds of belief, confidence, resilience, and clarity, your life will begin to flourish in unexpected ways. The mistake most people make is trying to change their outer world without first addressing the silent script running in the background. You can hustle, work long hours, and chase goals, but if your dominant thoughts are still rooted in fear and scarcity, you'll always feel like you're running uphill with no finish line in sight. True success becomes automatic when it flows from the inside out. You can't plant weeds and expect roses. The same way you can't fuel your mind with negative self-talk, and expect it to create a life of fulfillment and power. Thoughts become habits, and habits become identity. The words you repeat inside your head day after day slowly become your truth. They become the lens through which you view yourself, your potential, your worth, and your future. That's why it's not enough to think positively once in a while. You must choose your thoughts like you choose the clothes you wear, with intention, with awareness, with a vision of who you are becoming. Every time you affirm your worth, every time you repeat a belief that supports your growth, you are rewiring your mind for a higher version of yourself. It doesn't matter what your past has looked like or what mistakes you've made. The mind doesn't cling to the past unless you keep feeding it. Hey, your present thoughts are more powerful than your past actions. At any moment, you can begin the process of transformation by choosing to focus on the thoughts that serve your vision, not your fear. That's the beginning of real freedom. When you begin to think thoughts that align with where you want to go, instead of where you've been, you create a mental environment where success feels natural, where effort feels energizing, and where momentum begins to build. Without you forcing it, repetition is the mother of reprogramming. One empowered thought, repeated with emotion and conviction, carries more impact than 1,000 scattered intentions. When you wake up, before the noise of the world fills your mind, speak words of power to yourself. Tell your mind what it needs to hear, not what it's used to hearing. Here's to hearing. Tell it you are capable. Tell it you are ready. Tell it success is drawn to you because you are aligned with its frequency. When this becomes your dominant inner dialogue, it will start to spill over into your choices, your energy, your posture, your voice. You will begin to carry yourself differently, and that shift will not go unnoticed by the universe. What you consistently focus on, you magnetize into your life. The mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality. It simply responds to the pictures you feed it. When you imagine failure, your body reacts with stress, hesitation, and paralysis. When you imagine success, your body fills with confidence, creativity, and boldness. The thoughts you dwell on become instructions to your nervous system, telling it how to show up in the world. So if you want your life to move forward automatically, you must first take the driver's seat in your own mind and feed it only the images, words, and beliefs that reflect the future you desire. Most people never stop to question the voice in their head. They assume it's telling the truth, but often it's just echoing fears, doubts, and limitations picked up along the way. You must learn to observe that voice without obeying it. You must become the editor of your mental narrative, deleting what no longer serves you and writing a new story that fuels your greatness. The more you repeat the story of your power, the more your mind will accept it as fact. And once your mind believes it, your behavior will follow. You'll find yourself acting in alignment with success without even trying, because it will feel natural, automatic, inevitable. This is the hidden power of dominant thoughts. They shape the unseen architecture of your life. They are the silent directors behind your actions, your habits, your patterns. You don't have to shout them out loud or declare them to the world. Just holding them with consistency and emotional intensity is enough to begin rewriting your future. When you take responsibility for what you allow to dominate your mind, you take control of your destiny. The outside world may take time to catch up, but inside, the transformation begins the moment you choose better thoughts and refuse to let fear drive the narrative any longer. Success does not begin with how much effort you put out into the world, how long you grind, or how hard you hustle. Those are the outer expressions of something much deeper and more powerful. True success begins with inner belief, the invisible foundation upon which all achievement is built. Before any action, there is a thought. Before any decision, there is a self-perception. And before any success, there is a belief that says, "The actions we take are born from the identity we hold within." You don't act like a winner until you first believe that you are one. This is the core truth most people overlook as they chase result after result, hoping their life will change. If they just do more, the world constantly pushes the idea that doing more is the key to getting more. But doing without being is like planting seeds in dry soil. No matter how many you throw, they won't take root. Your identity is the soil, and your beliefs are the nutrients. If your inner world is saturated with self-doubt, low worth, or fear, even the best strategies will feel forced. Even the right opportunities will slip through your hands. You'll sabotage without realizing it. You'll retreat just before the breakthrough. You'll say no to the very things you once prayed for, not because you don't want them, but because deep down, you still don't believe you deserve them. When you look at those who achieve massive, lasting success, you'll notice something unshakable about them. It's not luck. It's not always skill. Always skill. It's identity. They walk through life as though their success is already written. They speak with the conviction of someone who knows. They act not from a place of doubt, but from alignment. This comes from belief, a deep-rooted knowing that they are worthy, capable, powerful. And because they believe it, they behave as if it's true. And because they behave as if it's true, the world eventually responds in kind. Identity drives behavior, and behavior determines results. You can only rise as high as your self-image will allow. Most people try to change their life by starting with action. But action without inner alignment is like swimming against a current. You can force it, but it will drain you. Oh, that's why so many people burn out. They're trying to create success from a mindset that's still aligned with struggle. But when your inner belief is tuned to abundance, worth, and certainty, your actions flow with ease. You don't have to push so hard when you're moving from belief instead of fear. You naturally take the right steps. You attract the right people. You walk into rooms differently. You speak up more. You stop settling. You stop playing small. You move with intention instead of desperation. The moment you upgrade your identity, everything starts to shift. The things you once resisted become second nature. The choices you struggled with become obvious. You stop chasing validation because you already feel whole. You stop seeking permission because you've already given yourself the power to act. Success stops feeling like a mountain and starts feeling like a reflection. You don't just do successful things. You embody a successful mindset. It's not about pretending. It's about peeling back the layers of doubt and reconnecting with the truth that's always been there, that you were never lacking to begin with. Belief is not something you borrow from others or find in a book. It's something you build, one thought at a time. And like anything that's built, it requires intention. You can't hope for belief to arrive on its own. You must feed it, nurture it, affirm it daily. You must choose thoughts that align with the version of you who already has what you desire. You must visualize yourself succeeding until your mind can no longer tell the difference between imagination and reality. Your brain is wired to follow the dominant pattern. And the more you think in alignment with success, the more your mind rewires itself to expect it, create it, sustain it. When your belief becomes unshakable, you stop needing to control everything. You trust your instincts. You trust your vision. You trust the timing of your life. And from that place of inner certainty, your actions become more powerful. They carry weight. They land differently. People feel it. The universe feels it. You start moving like someone who is no longer asking if it's possible, but someone who's already living in the answer. That shift is magnetic. It draws success toward you, not because you're chasing it, but because you're aligned with it. You've become a match for the very thing you desire. And when that happens, life begins to bend in your favor. The secret is never in the doing alone. It's always been in the being. Who you believe you are sets the limit on what you allow yourself to experience. If you believe you are meant for greatness, your actions will follow that belief. You won't tolerate less. You won't settle for average. You won't allow fear to drive. You'll step into rooms differently. You'll take up space unapologetically. You'll pursue your goals without hesitation, not because you're fearless, but because your belief is stronger than your fear. That is what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. Not talent, not time, but identity. This is the inner work most people skip, but it's the only work that changes everything else. When you start believing differently, you start living differently. When your belief shifts, your standards rise, your vision expands, your decisions become aligned. And that is when success becomes automatic, not because it's effortless, but because it no longer feels unnatural. You're no longer fighting against yourself. You're no longer trying to act like someone you don't believe you are. Instead, you're living in alignment with your true self, the version of you who is always meant to win. The power is within you, not in the world. Not in the circumstances, not in the effort alone, but in the belief that activates all of it. The mind is not just a thinker of thoughts. It is a collector of patterns, a mirror of repetition, a machine that runs whatever program it has been given. And many of those programs are outdated, inherited from a past that no longer serves your future. From childhood experiences, painful failures, careless words spoken over you, and invisible fears absorbed from others, your mind collects beliefs like a sponge absorbs water. Over time, those beliefs become your filter. They shape what you see, what you believe is possible, and most importantly, what you expect. If your mind is cluttered with thoughts of unworthiness, failure, fear, or regret, that noise becomes the soundtrack of your life. And no matter how much you want success, as long as that inner noise plays louder than your faith, your life will keep hitting the same invisible walls. You were not born afraid. You were not born doubting yourself. You were born with a blank slate with limitless potential and no limits in your imagination. But the world taught you to shrink. It taught you to fear rejection, to fear judgment, to fear falling short. And the more you listened, the more you forgot your own power. Every moment you believed a lie about your worth, that lie took root. Every time you let failure define you, it formed a pattern. These layers of programming build up like fog over glass, blurring your vision, making it harder to see the truth of who you are. But the good news is what has been programmed can be reprogrammed. You are not the thoughts you inherited. You are the one who chooses which thoughts get to stay. Clearing the mental clutter begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't recognize. Ooh, pay attention to the thoughts that show up when you're alone, when you're challenged, when you're dreaming big. Do they lift you or shrink you? Are they rooted in fear or in faith? The mind will always echo what is most familiar, not what is most helpful. So if fear has been your constant companion, it will keep returning until you make a new choice. And that choice must be intentional. You must choose to replace fear with faith, not just once, but over and over again, until faith becomes the new normal. Until courage becomes louder than hesitation, the mind is a creature of habit. It will believe what you feed it, and it will resist what is unfamiliar. That's why affirmations feel strange at first. That's why confidence feels fake when you've spent years in doubt. But repetition is how the mind learns. When you feed it the same empowering thoughts again and again, it begins to accept them as truth. You don't need to argue with the negative thoughts, just outnumber them. You don't need to prove your worth to your past. Just decide to build your future from a new story. A mind full of faith cannot coexist with a heart full of fear. One will always be louder. Choose which one speaks. Eliminating fear does not mean pretending it doesn't exist. It means shining light on it, calling it by name, and choosing to act in spite of it. Fear loses its power when it is exposed. The moment you stop treating it as truth and start seeing it as a pattern, you reclaim your power. Fear is not a prophecy. It's a habit. And like all habits, it can be broken. But it must be replaced. You can't just silence fear. You must fill that space with something stronger. Faith is not blind optimism. It is the decision to believe in a future you haven't yet seen, simply because you've decided that staying stuck is no longer an option. Start your mornings with intention. The moment you wake up, your mind is in a state where it is most suggestible. What you feed it in the first hour will set the tone for your entire day. Fill that space with power, not panic. Speak your truth before the world has a chance to speak over you. Remind your mind who you are becoming. Declare the vision even when you don't yet see the evidence. Your words are seeds. Plant them wisely. Water them with emotion. Nurture them with belief. The more you speak from faith, the more your mind begins to rewire itself. You are creating new neural pathways, new emotional anchors, new mental reflexes. The power of faith-based affirmations lies not in the words themselves, but in the emotional intensity behind them. Don't just say the words. Feel them. Embody them. Let them live in your posture, your breath, your energy. Say them when you're afraid. Say them when you're tired. Say them when nothing around you looks like it's working. Because those are the moments when your mind is most vulnerable to slipping back into fear. Those are the moments when you're building resilience. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are training your nervous system to expect a different outcome. You are not weak for struggling with fear. You are human, but you are also powerful beyond measure. And that power is activated the moment you stop feeding fear with your attention. The more you feed it, the stronger it grows. The more you ignore it, the quieter it becomes. But starving fear isn't enough. You must feed faith. You must speak life into your vision. You must surround yourself with messages, people, and environments that reinforce the new story you're telling yourself. Because reprogramming your mind is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice, a sacred ritual of alignment between who you are and who you are. Becoming every thought is either a brick or a barrier. Every belief is either a bridge to your future or a chain to your past. You get to decide what stays and what goes. You get to decide what your mind worships, fear or faith. Most people never question their thoughts. They assume fear is a sign to stop, when in reality, it is a signal to grow. Fear often shows up at the door of transformation, not as a warning, but as a test. And the test is simple. Will you choose the familiar prison or the unfamiliar freedom? The world around you reflects the world within you. If you want to change your results, you must start by clearing the clutter. Identify the fears that have been ruling your choices. Replace them with affirmations that align with your purpose. Speak to your future self as if they already exist. Visualize that future so vividly that your current reality begins to dissolve in comparison. This is how reprogramming begins, not with force but with focus, not with struggle but with surrender to a higher belief. A belief that says you are no longer available for fear, no longer open to limitation, no longer tolerating the lies you once believed as truth. Most people live their lives waiting for the right conditions to take action, believing they need more time, more clarity. More clarity, more motivation before they can begin. But the truth is, action is not the result of motivation. It is the source of it. You don't need to feel ready to take the first step. You just need to take it. Momentum is built through movement, and movement is the spark that ignites change. Change. When you move, the energy around you shifts. The fog begins to lift. The doubts begin to fade. Clarity emerges not in stillness, but in motion. The mind starts to catch up to the body, and belief starts to grow not from thinking, but from doing. There is something deeply powerful about taking action in the face of uncertainty. It sends a message to your subconscious that you trust yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. And that message becomes a signal to your mind and body that says, I am capable, I am resourceful, I can handle what comes. And the more you reinforce that message through consistent, intentional action, the more your confidence grows. You begin to build trust in your ability to follow through. You stop needing guarantees and start leaning on faith. Action becomes your anchor. It grounds you in a reality of your own creation. Waiting is a trap dressed as logic. The mind convinces you that now is not the time, that you need to figure everything out before you begin. But perfection is a myth that paralyzes. Progress is what transforms. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a willing heart and a commitment to show up, even when you don't feel ready. Action has a way of revealing what the mind cannot imagine. You take a step, and the next one appears. You make a move, and doors open. You begin to walk, and the path forms beneath your feet. But none of it happens until you begin. The first move is the most powerful because it breaks the spell of inertia. Each time you take bold action, even a small one, you break the cycle of hesitation. You disrupt the loop of overthinking that keeps so many people stuck. You shift your identity from someone who dreams into someone who does. And the moment you begin to act as the version of yourself who already has what they desire, you collapse the gap between your current reality and your future self. The distance begins to shrink. The results begin to align. And you realize that action is not just a tool. It's a mirror. It reflects back the truth of who you believe you are, and what you believe you deserve. Action creates evidence, and evidence builds belief. You can read all the books, listen to all the affirmations, visualize your goals daily, but until you act on that belief, your mind won't fully accept it. Action proves to your subconscious that the belief is real. It shows your nervous system that success is not just a fantasy. It's something you are actively creating. That proof becomes your foundation. It becomes the reason you keep going. When fear shows up, you'll have something to lean on. When doubt returns, you'll have proof that you've done hard things before. Action gives you something that thoughts alone cannot. Momentum, consistency of action is more important than the size of the step. Small steps taken daily create bigger transformations than massive actions taken once in a while. It's not about dramatic gestures. It's about showing up when it's hard, following through when it's inconvenient, and choosing growth even when comfort calls your name. That's how new habits are formed. That's how new identities are built. Every time you choose discipline over delay, you're training your mind to expect progress. Every time you take a step forward, even when it feels insignificant, you are reinforcing the identity of someone who doesn't wait for permission to rise. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they hesitate. They let the fear of judgment, the weight of expectation, or the illusion of the perfect moment stop them from ever beginning. But once you recognize that hesitation is the enemy of growth, you begin to move with a different level of urgency. You stop negotiating with procrastination. You stop asking fear for its opinion. You stop allowing your current emotions to dictate your future actions. You take the first step not because it's easy, but because you've decided that your goals are more important than your excuses. Taking action also shifts your focus from internal noise to external momentum. It silences the mental chatter that tells you you're not ready. It disrupts the loop of self-doubt and gives your mind something real to process: movement, progress, direction. You begin to trade rumination for results. You stop analyzing and start executing. And as you move, you begin to feel a deeper connection to your purpose. You become more engaged, more alive, more connected to the future you're creating. This is where transformation happens, not in the thinking, but in the doing. Every action is a declaration. When you act, you're not just doing something, you're saying something. You're saying something. You're declaring your vision. You're expressing your values. You're claiming your place in a world that often tries to make you feel small. Action is the language of belief. It speaks louder than words. It tells your mind and the world that you are serious about your vision, that you're not just hoping for success, you're creating it with every decision, every movement, every step forward. You don't need to feel fearless to take action. You just need to decide that fear doesn't get the final say. You don't need all the answers to begin. You just need the courage to start with what you have. The rest will reveal itself along the way. The clarity, the momentum, the breakthroughs, they all come after the first move. They are waiting for you to take the first step, to trust the process, to lean into the unknown with the faith that something powerful is unfolding. And it will. But only if you act. Reprogramming your mind is not about learning something new. It's about remembering what you already knew before the world taught you to forget. You came into this world with a natural sense of possibility, curiosity, boldness, and vision. You dreamed without limits, played without fear, loved without hesitation. But as life unfolded, you were slowly taught to doubt that voice inside. You were taught to fear failure, to seek approval, to measure your worth through comparison. Every time you heard of be realistic, every time you were criticized for dreaming too big or moving too fast, a piece of that original vision was dimmed. But it was never lost. It only got buried beneath layers of noise, and now is the time to unlearn what the world imprinted on you and return to the clarity you were born with. The most powerful transformations begin, not with adding more, but with releasing the false beliefs that never belonged to you. The mind is full of outdated files. No longer serve you. Identities built on survival, stories built on pain. And unless those stories are rewritten, they become the foundation of every decision you make. They influence who you trust, what you pursue, how you see yourself. They become invisible, scripts that play out day after day. And most people don't even know they're reading from a script that someone else wrote. The moment you realize you are not the script, you are the author, everything changes. To rewrite your mental code, you must first observe it. Listen to how you speak to yourself when no one is listening. Notice the thoughts that show up when you fail, when you succeed, when you rest. Are they voices of compassion or criticism? Do they lift you or limit you? Your self-talk is not just commentary, it is instruction. Every word you repeat to yourself becomes a command to your nervous system. If you constantly say you're not good enough, your mind begins to build a reality that matches that belief. But if you shift the dialogue, you shift the experience. It is not about lying to yourself. It's about refusing to keep repeating the lies. You were once told the process of reprogramming your mind is a process of emotional honesty and radical intention. You cannot rewire a system you're still pretending isn't broken. You must sit with the discomfort of your old beliefs before you can release them. You must examine the root, not just the surface. Why do you hesitate to speak up? Why do you hold back when opportunity knocks? Why do you chase validation? The answers to these questions often come from wounds, not weakness. And once you face them, once you feel them without shame, you can finally choose to let them go. Your power is not in avoiding the old patterns. It is in breaking them with awareness and replacing them with new ones that reflect who you are. Becoming one of the most overlooked tools in reprogramming is visualization. Not just seeing the goal, but feeling it, living it, immersing yourself in it so deeply that your nervous system begins to adapt to the new reality. The brain does not know the difference between what is vividly imagined and what is experienced. When you visualize success, confidence, peace, or abundance with emotion, repetition, and clarity, you begin to build new mental pathways that lead you to act in alignment with that vision. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. Your dominant thoughts create patterns, and patterns create habits, and habits create identity, create a daily ritual of mental conditioning. Just as you train the body, train the mind. Fill it with thoughts that support your highest self. Speak affirmations with conviction, not as wishful thinking, but as declarations of truth. Write your goals, not just as tasks, but as identities. Instead of "I want to achieve this," say "I am the kind of person who achieves this." Identity-based thinking is the secret key to long-term transformation. Oh,